You know, I'm based in the United States, and I have to select stocks globally, and it's a big question as to whether or not you look at the world with your U.S. glasses on, or whether you attempt to find universal standards. Certainly, I believe human dignity is a universal standard. Whether you're coming from a very poor nation, very well-to-do nation, universal human dignity is a standard we can all understand. When you're looking at issues of, for example, diversity, you have a great deal more cultural influence. In a nation like Japan, for example, there's very little diversity, gender diversity, at the top of a company or at the board of director level. Do you want to eliminate all Japanese companies? Probably not. You probably want to use this form of investing to move them down the line. Now, when I look from a U.S. basis to Europe, in the U.S., I use about 55% of the companies I look at. In Europe, I use about 65% of the companies I look at, because the European companies already embed a good many practices, particularly on the issues of disclosure as regards their impact on their workforce and on their environmental impact. And quite a bit more disclosure as regards the sourcing of their products and things. So European companies, to my way of thinking, would be more a model for U.S. companies or a model for the more emerging economies in the investment process. I guess there's one area where Europe's significantly different. Europe has a history of nuclear power as a means of protecting the environment. In the United States, there's been a sense that the waste from these nuclear power plants is very poorly disposed of, and we've tended to avoid nuclear power. So that one issue area might be different in the US versus Europe. It will be the leapfrogging technology, that wind is somewhat transitional as a clean energy source, but that when solar comes on full force, in many parts of the country or many parts of the world, it's going to be a more reliable and appropriate for that geography kind of power. So if Greece is able to really finance the research and development of solar, and I think Spain did very well for quite a while, use alternative energy as a means of getting its economy focused on one issue, that would be a good solution for the country. I think the question whether a country can focus on a single industry and use that industry to become stronger is an interesting question. It's been a long time in the United States since we have had planning of that sort, a planned economic outcome. And so we in the United States tend to leave those questions off the table. So it's also interesting from the point of view of here's a nation that is attempting as a government to support industry in a unique and targeted way for the betterance of its people. And I like the idea of putting that concept on the table again. Right, there are wonderful examples out there that we could integrate in each nation could mandate across the board. And I do think the Japanese disclosure on environmental cost to the Japanese people is a wonderful way of looking at things. The Norwegian trust is also a wonderful way of evaluating. It's a little bit more based on who are we as Norwegians. It's a nice construct. The terrible crisis we had in terms of the banks and all of the hardship that the collapse of the banking industry cost the world should help make it clear to the investing public that what happens on Wall Street matters to us. You know, that it's not another world out there, but the actions taken on Wall Street affect us here in our lives. And if we can realize how profound that was in this one little microcosm of transactions of derivatives, imagine how profound if we think about it across food sources, across medical sources. I mean, really, trade is what gives us the lives that we live. And if we can mandate or at least encourage trade to be helpful to our lives, then what a nice bright future we all have.